Are you prepared tonight to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?
I'm not prepared tonight to say that any married couple should ever discuss that with anyone but themselves.
I'm Steve Croft, and this is a special abbreviated edition of 60 Minutes. Tonight, Democratic presidential hopeful Governor Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary talk about their life, their marriage, and the allegations that have all but stalled his presidential campaign. It's been quite a week for Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton. On Monday, his picture was on the cover of Time magazine, anointed by the press as the frontrunner for the Democratic presidential nomination. 6 days later, he's trying to salvage his campaign. His problem? Long-rumored allegations of marital infidelity finally surfaced in a supermarket tabloid. And last week, they were picked up and reprinted, unsubstantiated, by the mainstream press. Since then, for better or for worse, Governor Clinton's private life has become the overriding issue in the Democratic presidential campaign. Earlier today, Governor Clinton and his wife Hillary sat down with me to try to put the issue to rest. Keep in mind, as we said earlier, all of the allegations are unsubstantiated. All have been denied by everyone involved, except for the case of Jennifer Flowers, a former television reporter and cabaret singer. Jennifer Flowers, in a tabloid interview for which she was paid, says she carried on a long-term affair with Governor Clinton from the late 1970s through the end of 1989. Who is Jennifer Flowers? You know her.
Oh, yes.
How do you know her? How would you describe your relationship?
Very limited, but until this, friendly, but limited. I met her in the late 70s when I was Attorney General. And she was one of a number of young people who were working for the television stations around Little Rock. And, the people in politics and the people in the media knew each other then, just as they do now. She left our state, and for years I didn't really hear from her, know what she was doing. Then she came back, sometime a few years ago, and went to work again in the state. So that's who she is.
Was she a friend, an acquaintance? Does your wife know her?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
She was an acquaintance, I would say a friendly acquaintance. When this rumor story got started in the middle of 1980, and she was contacted and told about it, she was so upset, and she called back and she said, "How can I be listed on this? I haven't seen you for more than 10 minutes in 10 years. She would call from time to time when she was upset or thought she was really being hurt by the rumors. And I would call her back. Either she would call the office, or I'd call her back there at the office, or I'd call her back at the house. And Hillary knew when I was calling her back. I think once I called her when we were together. And so there's nothing out of the ordinary there.
She's a legend and is described in some detail in a supermarket tabloid, which she calls a 12-year affair with you.
That allegation is false.
When this woman first got caught up in these charges, I felt, as I felt about all of these women, that, they've just been minding their own business and they got hit by a meteor. I mean, it was no fault of their own. We reached out to them. I met with two of them to reassure them. They were friends of ours. I felt terrible about what was happening to them. Bill talked to this woman every time she called, distraught, saying her life was going to be ruined. And, he'd get off the phone and tell me that she said sort of wacky things, which we thought were attributable to the fact that she was terrified.
It was only when money came out, when the tabloid went down there offering people money to say that they had been involved with me, that she changed her story. There's a recession on, times are tough, and I think you can expect more and more of these stories as long as they're down there handing out money.
I'm assuming from your answer that you're categorically denying that you ever had an affair with Jennifer Flowers.
I've said that before, and so has she.
You've said that your marriage has had problems, that you've had difficulties. What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Is that some kind of, help us break the code? I mean, does that mean you were separated? Does that mean that you had communication problems? Does that mean you contemplated divorce? Does it mean adultery?
I think the American people, at least people that have been married for a long time, know what it means and know the whole range of things that it can mean.
You've been saying all week that you've got to put this issue behind you. Are
Are you prepared tonight to say that you've never had an extramarital affair?
I'm not prepared tonight to say that any married couple should ever discuss that with anyone but themselves. I'm not prepared to say that about anybody. I think...
Governor, that's what you, excuse me, that's what you've been saying essentially for the last couple of months.
Look, Steve, you go back and listen to what I said. You know, I have acknowledged wrongdoing. I have acknowledged causing pain in my marriage. I have said things to you tonight and to the American people from the beginning that no American politician ever has. I think most Americans who are watching this tonight, they'll know what we're saying, they'll get it, and they'll feel that we have been more candid. And I think what the press has to decide is, are we going to engage in a game of gotcha? You know, I can remember a time, and it was sad, when a divorced person couldn't run for president. And that time, thank goodness, has passed. Nobody's prejudiced against anybody because they're divorced. Are we going to take the reverse position now, that if people have problems in their marriage and there are things in their past which they don't want to discuss, which are painful to them, that they can't run?
You're trying to put this issue behind you. And the problem with the answer is, it's not a denial. And people are sitting out there, voters, and they're saying, look, it's really pretty simple. If he's never had an extramarital affair, why doesn't he just say so?
That may be what they're saying. You know what I think they're saying? I think they're saying, here's a guy who's leveling with us. You may think that we should say more, and you can keep asking the question, but I'm telling you, I think that we've told, I'll come back to what I said, I have told the American people more than any other candidate for president. The result of that has been everybody going to my state and spending more time trying to play gotcha.
There isn't a person watching this who would feel comfortable sitting on this couch detailing everything that ever went on in their life or their marriage. And I think it's real dangerous in this country if we don't have some zone of privacy for everybody. I mean, I think that is absolutely
I couldn't agree
critical.
with you more, and I agree with you that everyone wants to put this behind you. And the reason it hasn't gone away is that your answer is not a denial, is it?
But interesting, let's assume...
But it's not a denial.
Of course it's not. And let's take it from your point of view. If that won't make it go away, you know that you can cut this round or cut this flat. I mean, if you deny, then you have a whole other horde of people going down there offering more money, trying to prove that you lied. And if you say yes, you have just what I've already said by being open and telling you that we've had problems. You have, oh good, now we can play gotcha and find out who it is. Now, no matter what I say, to pretend that the press will then let this die, we're kidding ourselves. I mean, you know, this has become a virtual cottage industry. The only way to put it behind us, I think, is for all of us to agree that this guy has told us about all we need to know. Anybody who's listening gets the drift of it. And let's go on and get back to the real problems of this country. The problems are about what's going to happen to families in New Hampshire and the rest of this country in the future, not what happened to mine in the past.
I don't like some of these questions any better than you do, but the question of marital infidelity is an issue with a sizable portion of the electorate. According to the latest CBS News poll, which was just taken over the weekend, 14% of the registered voters in America say they wouldn't vote for a candidate who's had an affair.
I know it's an issue, but what does that mean? That means 86% of the American people either don't think it's relevant to presidential performance or look at whether a person looking at all the facts is the best person to serve.
We've gone further than anybody we know of, and that's all we're going to say. And people can ask us 100 different ways and from 100 different directions. And we're just going to leave the ultimate decision up to the American people.
I think most Americans would agree that it's very admirable that you have stayed together, that you've worked your problems out, that you seem to have reached some sort of an understanding and an arrangement.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're looking at two people who love each other. This is not an arrangement or an understanding. This is a marriage. That's a very different thing.
You know, I'm not sitting here as some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette. I'm sitting here because I love him, and I respect him, and I honor what he's been through and what we've been through together. And you know, if that's not enough for people, then heck, Don't vote for him.
A good friend of yours, one of your campaign advisors, told us the other day, Bill Clinton has got to level with the American people tonight. Otherwise, his candidacy is dead. You feel like you've leveled with the American people?
I have absolutely leveled with the American people.
We're going to do the best we can to level with people, and then we're going to let them make up their minds, because I think if the American people get a chance, and if they're trusted to exercise their vote right, because people talk to them about real issues, this country will be okay. That's what we're betting on, and we're just going to roll the dice and see what happens.
You called it a gamble. You came here tonight to try and put it behind you. You're going to get on the plane when you walk out of this room and go back to New Hampshire. You think you've succeeded?
That's up to the American people, and to some extent up to the press. This will test the character of the press. It is not only my character that has been tested.
I'm Steve Croft. We'll be back next Sunday at our regular time with a complete edition of 60 Minutes, including Ed Bradley with Anita Hill, her first interview since the Clarence Thomas hearings. Now, 48 hours.